Hello, hypothetical audience. I'm JJNW'S Ghost, and welcome to Hazy Cosmic Jive. Today is Friday, March 18th, 2022. A gloomy day, but by no means a bad day. Though I did have some a little bit of issues with my microphone this morning, like I did last week, but I was able to get it fixed a lot quicker, which is definitely a good sign. So that means I can do all the talking I want. Oh boy, hypothetical audience. Let me tell you, there's gonna be a lot of talking. Now, clearly, I'm recording this right now. I have no idea the final time on this episode. It would not surprise me if it's a lot longer than last week's. So, if you don't like me doing a lot of talking, I would say, why are you even here? But also, you are a hypothetical audience. As far as I know, you guys are all in my head, and I am actually delusional. So, I guess no one's gonna tell me to stop talking, so I'll just keep going. So, just starting with life updates. My main projects for the past couple weeks have been, one, to finally finish The Count of Monte Cristo. And I've also just wanted to rewatch a bunch of anime films that I haven't seen in a while. And I just wanted to see how they hold up. Like, are some of them as good as I remember? Some of them that I was kind of mixed on the first time I saw it. Like, are they a lot better than I thought they were? Just to kind of see all that. Now, as far as The Count of Monte Cristo goes, I still have about 20 chapters or so left. I think right now I'm on 99. So we are in the thick of the revenge plots. And let me tell you, hypothetical audience, this thing is glorious. I will go ahead and say my biggest problems with the novel. Number one is Hazy. Now, she has what might be my favorite scene when she confronts Fernand. But other than that, like, her relationship with the Count makes me really uncomfortable. Like, with the way they talk to each other or about each other, it's clear that there's supposed to be this kind of father-daughter dynamic between the two of them. He'll frequently call her my child. There's a point where he thinks he might be dying soon. He's like, maybe I don't have that much to live for anyways. But then he sees Hazy and he's like, no, I do have something to live for because I have a daughter. I have someone who depends on me that I'm going to care about. But then a little bit later, like in the same chapter, hell, it might even been like the same couple paragraphs. He's like, maybe Hazy doesn't see me as a father figure. Maybe she's been kind of subtly letting me know that she's interested. I never thought about it that way before. But now that I am, maybe it's not a terrible idea. I'm like, no, stop. That's weird. If this is a father-daughter relationship, keep it as a father-daughter relationship. Don't make it weird. The other thing I don't care for in the novel is the subplot of the romance between Maximilian and Valentine. It's not bad. I just don't find myself that interested in it. Like, some of the side stuff with her, like her relationship with her father, Villefort, and her grandfather, and the tension between the father and the grandfather, that stuff I think is really interesting. But just their romance it's fine. I just wish we were focusing on more interesting characters, which is pretty much everyone. But aside from those two issues, I absolutely love this novel. I think the story is good. I really like a lot of the characters. There's so many great lines. Like, Villefort about his first wife. The narration, what does it say? It's like he loved her not passionately, but reasonably. Love that one. The line when, after Albert gets kidnapped, when he and Franz are in Rome, the kidnappers end up sending like a ransom note, like, hey, we have your friend, give us this much by this time, or you might not see him again, blah, 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 blah. Under the note, Albert also writes him a message, kind of like, hey, so, yeah, I got kidnapped. I tried to go out with this girl, but, she was working with the bandits. kind of sucks for me, should have listened to you, blah, 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 blah. P.S. I now believe in Roman bandits, which is probably my favorite line from the novel, because I just loved how this guy's like, yeah, I got screwed, but I could still see the humor in it. So just absolutely loving the novel. If you have not read it yourself, like, I'm listening to an audiobook, so like audiobook, actual book, however you can get your hands on it, 1000% recommend it. I will probably just do a piece on it at some point when I'm done, but good shit. So about the movies that I've been rewatching, I watched Nausicaa Valley of the Wind, which I think is okay. You know, the first time I saw it, I was like, I think it's fine, and I still think it's fine. With a few moments here or there that really stood out. I was like, oh, this is a really good scene. This is a really interesting idea. Overall, it's okay. Princess Mononoke, the first time I watched it, I did not get into it. I was really young. I want to say like 8 or 9. And all I could think of was, oh my goodness, this movie is so violent. Why is it so violent? But now I can look at it and think, A, this movie is violent. This movie's really violent. This is kind of awesome. And 2, I have a lot of respect for it as an environmentalist movie. You know, I grew up watching Fern Gully, which I haven't seen in a long time. It's probably not a good movie, but I'm used to something about the environment being very ham-fisted. Like, oh yeah, all humans are, you know, they're bad, and, you know, you gotta save the trees, and, you know, blah, 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 blah. Which, I mean, the environment is important. Now, not saying that we shouldn't try and protect it. But Mononoke has a lot more nuance in that. It kind of like the Lorax. To me, the best scene in the Lorax is the Onceler and the Lorax having a conversation where the Onceler's like, okay, dude, so if I were to stop my production, if I were to stop messing with the truffle of trees and making my thneeds, so many people would lose their jobs. They would lose their livelihoods. And then what happens then? You know, we have all of this industry, and if we just stop, people are going to suffer. What would you have me do then? What do you want me to say to those people? And then the Lorax is just like, well, okay, you have a good point. Now, and what I like about that is like, no, the Onceler is not in the right for what he's doing, but it does add some grayness to it. And with the Lorax even saying like, I still believe what I'm saying, and I still think you need to stop, but I at least get where you're coming from. And to me, Mononoke is a lot like that. There is some grayness to it. Like, yes, there are human characters destroying the environment, but you also kind of get to know them and like get to know their city. But the person in charge of this place, I feel like, is still a likable character. And I feel like there is, again, enough kind of complexity or moral grayness where there is still a main antagonist, but it's not just the people destroying the environment. They're not doing it for no reason. So next, I watched The Night is Short, Walk On Girl, which is a ton of fun. It's absolutely hilarious. I find Yuasa's work to be really hit or miss for me. Like, I'll be honest, I did not get into Devilman Crybaby. Near the end, I felt like the show kind of clicked for me, and then the last episode happened. I was like, no, I just didn't like it that much. But Tatami Galaxy and Night is Short absolutely clicked for me. Certified bangers. Love them both. I watched Wolf Children, which it's a movie that made me want to hug my mom. You know, this is a movie that is all about a woman's hard work and devotion to her children. And it's beautiful. You know, both in terms of its story and its animation. There is a scene with just, the woman and her kids running through the snow, and it's so pretty to look at. Oh my goodness. I don't love the ending of the movie, or at least parts of the ending, but probably like 99% of this movie absolutely adored it. So the other anime movie that I tried watching over the past couple weeks was Akira. I was really enjoying it. I was starting to really get into this movie, like its world, its art style. But then the movie just stopped. And as the movie stopped, I was like, oh, wait, what just happened? Like, I don't know what's going on. And then my PS5 just started making, like, it made this really loud, aggressive whirring noise. So I tried to just eject the disc, but it didn't work. And then an error message showed up on the screen saying, like, hey, there's an error with the disc drive. I'm like, no shit. What are you going to do about it? So eventually, after trying to, push the button a couple more times, the disc ejects. I pull it out, and as I'm examining it, I notice this hole burned into the disc. Now, this is a movie I got secondhand. So either A, that hole was always there, the movie was able to work, but when it got to that point, it couldn't. And then it just said, hey, error, 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 we can't do this anymore, and then eventually was able to eject. Or two, the disc was perfectly fine, the movie was perfectly fine, and then my PlayStation at one point just decided, you know what? I'm having a bad day, I'm just gonna destroy this disc and you can't finish this movie. I still have some other anime films I want to rewatch that, like, I have on disc. I'm kind of scared to watch them now. I really don't know what to do, because this is the only time this has happened, which kind of makes me think that maybe it was a problem with the disc, but if there was a hole burned into it, would it even work in the first place? I really don't know. Like I said, I'm kind of scared to use discs on my PlayStation now, but at least Clay was able to beat Elden Ring before this happened. Now, luckily, I didn't need to use my PlayStation in order to watch Turning Red. Clay and I watched it the other night, and this was another movie that made me want to hug my mom. Although I will say, the motherly relationship in Turning Red was very different than the one in Wolf Children. It was a lot less healthy. And I won't lie, hearing terms like stripper music and discussions of like periods and pads, it's not something I was expecting in a Pixar movie, and there's several times watching it, I just felt kind of uncomfortable. I also found the movie absolutely hilarious and thoroughly enjoyed my time with it. Both of those statements can be true. Joker is a movie that made me very uncomfortable while I watched it, and I still really liked it. I would definitely recommend giving it a watch. Like, I feel like this is a movie that has been very divisive. It seems like people either really like it and like the topics that this movie is discussing, or people are like, no, they should not be talking about this in a movie. I mean, this is a kid's movie. This is a 13-year-old girl. Why is she so, like, always thinking about boys and, like, drawing pictures of a guy as a mermaid? Merman. I've seen Zoolander. Merman. I'm like, were you never a teenager? Were you never in middle school or high school? It's not uncommon to be interested in the opposite sex at that age. Like, I don't have a problem with it. Like, now, like I said, there's times where it got a little uncomfortable for me, but I certainly don't think these are unrealistic things to talk about with characters of this age. Now, the movie seems to be pretty divisive, so let me know if you've seen it, hypothetical audience. Let me know what some of your thoughts on it are, and if you're interested in me doing a piece on it. I don't have any plans to do so at the moment, but as I was kind of sitting here the other night, like, writing down some of the things I wanted to talk about, the gears started turning in my head, and I was like, wait a second. I did just mention how, the motherly relationship in here is very different from the one in Wolf Children. Like, Wolf Children is like, I am dedicated to my children, and I'm going to do everything I can to make their lives better, regardless of what that means for me. Whereas the relationship between Mei Mei and Ming, I believe was her mother's name, is a lot more controlling. Like, I don't know if I want to call it abusive, because I don't think it is, but I feel like it's fair to call it unhealthy. And maybe doing a piece just kind of comparing the two movies, at least like the relationships between the mother and her children, it's something that sounds kind of interesting. But let me know if that is something you're interested in me discussing, and I'll see what I can do with it. Now, another thing I've been doing the past couple of weeks is doing story development for one particular idea. It is a 4-part fantasy series. And a couple weeks ago, over the course of a few nights, I sat down and wrote out the full plot of part 4. And I think in total it was about 17 pages. And I thought I had done that for parts 2 and 3. With part 1, this is an idea I've had for long enough that I feel like I pretty much have it done. But parts 2 and 3, I thought I had similar documents for, and then when I looked at them, I was like, oh, this is not a full outline. These are just kind of a few notes. Ooh, I have a lot of work to do here. So that's really what I plan on doing for the next couple weeks as well. Last night, I was up to my throat here. Let me get a quick drink of water. Yeah, but last night, I was up till maybe 3 in the morning, just at my computer, writing down the plot of the main antagonist. Not this is what she was up to before the series started. This is what she was doing behind the scenes in part 1. This is what she was doing in part 2. And then I have to write down this is what she was doing in part 3. Because she is really the driving force of the narrative. So I feel like I really, really need to iron in what is her plan. I know what her goals are, and I know the basics of her plan, but I need the specifics of her plan. What does she do? Why does she take this particular action? Making sure it all makes sense. And that's what'll really help determine the plot of part 3. Part 2, she still does stuff in part 2, but part 2 is essentially, here's 3 completely separate story arcs that are all important. Oh, sorry, I think I bumped my cat for a second. Very Muhammad. It's here are 3 separate but equally important story arcs. Boom, boom, boom. And then part 3 is, okay, everything kind of coming back together again. This one really needs to be unified, and that's what I gotta be messing with. I also commissioned some art of Athena and Catherine. That's the main protagonist and the main antagonist of this series. I'm expecting to get it sometime in the next couple months. The commissioner made it clear, I'm not going to be able to get to this anytime soon. Is that okay? 100% fine. I'm in no rush. But when they're done, I'll more than likely share them here. And speaking of things I would like to share, just one last update before we get into our first opinion piece. Here's some pictures I took of a figure that arrived yesterday. I ordered it about a year ago. This is Nanase Karin from the show Inspector. I watched it a couple years ago. It's about a young woman who acts as a mediator for spirits and the issues that they have with regular people. Now, Nanase Karin, her spirit is an antagonist in the show, with her appearance and her abilities being fueled by the public's perception of her. The more rumors about her that start, once the rumors really gain traction, it affects her spirit and affects her personality, etc., etc. I've seen that idea of the collective unconscious angle in other series like Paranoia Agent and Recreators, and I'm always a sucker for it. So the episodes dealing with her, specifically focusing on that angle, were absolutely my favorite part of the show. I just heard yesterday that there is going to be a second season coming out this year. I'm really looking forward to watching it. And so I would say those are my life updates for the week. I don't know how long this lasted. I feel like I kind of rambled a bit, but it is what it is. But hopefully you didn't get too annoyed with me, hypothetical audience. So moving on to our first opinion piece of the week, we'll be going back to Serial Experiments Lane and discussing my thoughts on layers 3 and 4. So like I said last week, I might stick with one pair of episodes per week until I've gone through all of them. But if y'all just kind of want a lane-free episode and for me to talk about other stuff, just let me know and I'll oblige. But until then, we're logging back into Serial Experiments Lane. Hello, hypothetical audience, and welcome to some hazy cosmic jive. I'm JJNW'S Ghost, and for today's jive, I wanted to go back to 1998 and talk about a show called Serial Experiments Lane. Now, I don't remember when I was first introduced to Lane. I'd estimate probably about 7 or 8 years ago. I was aware of its reputation as a cyberpunk anime with various different, gosh, I sound like Charles Barkley, with various different interpretations as to both its themes and its overall plot. I was mostly interested in it because it had the same head writer as Digimon Tamers. Now, a far cry from Digimon Adventure, Tamers starts innocent enough, with an uncomfortable moment here or there before devolving into a full-on horror show for its final arc. I remember loving that as a kid, and I did rewatch it. I believe it was last year, the year before, with Clay, and it still holds up really well. Now, I watched Lane when I was first aware of it, and it didn't do much for me. I do remember feeling uncomfortable when I would walk near a power line and, I would hear that telltale hum. But that's one of the only things I took from the show, aside from Let's All Love Lane and the opening, which is a certified banger. But a couple weeks ago, a few friends of mine started watching Lane, and their conversations and enthusiasm for it convinced me to give it a rewatch. And, of course, I wanted to talk about my experience. So what I decided to do is take notes for every episode while I'm watching them about what sticks out to me. And then I want to make a short video just about each individual episode and my experience with it. I want to go over things like the basic plot, if there's any particular shots that really stood out to me, and what are the major themes that I'm picking up on from each individual episode and how they contribute to the larger themes of the whole narrative. So, without further ado, let's log in to Serial Experiments Lane. Layer 03, Psyche. The first few minutes of this episode are great. There's mentions of someone called Lane of the Wired, further cementing that Lane has a more active presence online than she does in reality. Later in the episode, there's another person she meets who knows her more for assertive personality, reinforcing that this is a recurring idea. Lane is interviewed by the police and they call her house, but no one answers the call, neither of her parents or her sister, and we see that the house is completely empty. Her friend Alice is staying with her at the police station, and the entire time, all Lane can say is just Alice's name. The vibe I get is that while Lane doesn't care much for her other friends, Alice is someone that is important to her. And it may end up being something more than friendship, which I feel like was something that was explored in some of the later episodes, but I don't 100% remember. But ultimately, Alice's parents come and pick her up, so she has to leave Lane behind, reinforcing how lonely Lane's life is outside of the Wired. We then get another great scene when Lane returns home. The house is empty with no one to welcome her aside from her computer. There are these great shots of her stuffed animals just sitting on her shelf, and it reminded me a lot of Madoka, particularly the scenes when Kyubey is explaining to her the history of the incubators and their relationship with magical girls. I know the shots from Madoka with the empty chairs were inspired by Bokurano, so it really wouldn't surprise me if the shots with just the stuffed animals were taken from Lane. And the score in this scene is something that really stuck out to me. It's mostly this lonely piano with, these occasional strings to kind of back it up. It's really ambient and made the whole scene feel creepy, even though nothing was really happening. And that is something that the show excels at. It is so good at creating atmosphere about the real world being very lonely and unwelcoming. Being lonely and unwelcoming. And like I said, the only thing to greet her when she got home was her computer, was the Wired. And I just really liked that little touch. I feel like it's also worth noting that this is one of the only scenes in the show that I noticed is really about that sense of loneliness, where the color white wasn't used. Instead, the main colors were blue and black. Now, a bit later, when she's on the train going to school, Lane starts hearing voices. She's told that she's not alone, it's better to treat to the Wired than to stay in reality. And the voice ends by asking her, who is Lane? It should give her something to ponder. Now, Lane ends up finding a letter in her school locker with an object inside. She asks her dad what it is, but he doesn't seem to know. She asks him again, a bit more forcefully, but he still doesn't know. And I really liked this touch. We've seen her dad thus far has an established track record of doing what Lane tells him to do. Asks for a computer, she gets it. She tells him to set it up now, he does it. So it only makes sense that, Lane would kind of be aware of this, and when at first he's like, oh, no, I don't know anything, to press her luck and make sure that he doesn't know anything. So that she ends up doing some more digging, and she learns that this object is something called a psyche, which gives her more, access, or her online presence now is a lot stronger. The last few minutes of the episode are with her sister, Mika. She notices these men in black scoping out the house. She tells her parents about it, but the parents don't listen. The mom in particular is very rude and distant to both of her daughters, which is just another way the show is showing how, kind of lonely reality is. Even the people that are supposed to be close to you just aren't. And the episode ends with Lane starting to upgrade her computer. I think this episode does do a really good job of expanding on the loneliness of reality compared to what can be offered inside the Wired. And the scene inside her empty house is one of my favorite in the series thus far. I still think my favorite moment is when she first, leaves her house and you get that, the shot of the color white and such. But this was easily, my second favorite scene, and I think so far it is my favorite episode. Layer 04, Religion. This is an episode about the Wired bleeding into reality, which is something we've seen as early as the first episode, with those, kind of weird, shadowy blobs surrounding Lane as she walks to school. It seems to be just, this is the Wired. It's kind of bubbling under the surface. We see that teens are playing this video game in the Wired. It seems like it's kind of like Doom, but the visuals are still visible when they're in reality. In addition to that, the games are being mixed with another game that's played by small children that's just a regular game of hide and seek. It leads to a weird moment. It leads to a couple weird moments. There's this one where there's this ghostly visage of Lane who's trying to talk to this guy who seems like he is in reality. And then this guy loads an invisible gun, and I think he killed a kid with it because he thought the kid was a monster from the game trying to chase it. We also find out that there's this group called the Knights, who are rumored to be the ones behind mixing of the games, and they run the Wired, I guess. I'll be honest. The theme of, the Wired really bleeding into reality is something I think is interesting, but the execution from this episode just didn't quite work for me. There's also a scene, I think it's the end of the episode, when Lane is staring at the men in black outside her house, and she breaks their scouters by using some kind of psychic power. It really felt out of place from the show I've been watching thus far, I'm not gonna lie. What I thought really did work from the episode, though, were Lane's parents. The episode starts with a narration about how parents aren't needed, and it's kind of like a dying concept. And we see Lane's dad watching her as she starts putting her new computer together. Mika starts talking to them about how Lane is changing, And her two parents are quick to dismiss that. But once Mika is out of earshot, then they very briefly discuss that, no, she's right. Something is going on with Lane, and it's not a good thing. It's subtle, but I, as the audience, can definitely see that they're right. Not necessarily that it's a bad thing, but that Lane is changing. She's becoming a lot more talkative when she's at school. She's a lot more excitable. We see how good she is with her computer and the upgrades of it. I mean, there's these really great shots of her at her computer where her eyes are just reflecting the screen, and I just really love the look of it. Now, the themes of The Wired crossing over into reality and Lane's evolution in spite of her parents both come to a head at the end of the episode. Her dad sits her down to have a talk about how The Wired is, it's nothing more than a way to share and filter information. It's not something that Lane should really try to get that involved in. And that she mustn't confuse The Wired for the real world. So Lane from the first episode and the majority of the second episode probably would have nodded and said little to nothing in response. But here, she very quickly retorts that the borders between the worlds aren't clear, showing her full intent to explore as much of The Wired as possible and let it influence her character even more. So while I didn't care for the plot of this episode that much, I do think the scenes with Lane's parents worked really well. I think showing how powerless they are when it comes to controlling her due to her growing reputation and skills inside The Wired is just another way of showing that it is bleeding over into reality. It's bleeding into their daughter. And for better or for worse, there's nothing they can do about it. And we're back. And I sincerely hope you're comfortable wherever you are, hypothetical audience, because I am going to be talking a lot in this next section. I talked a bit about NFL free agency last week with a few of the QB moves, but there are so many things to talk about from the past week, hell, even just the past few days. So the biggest news, to me, is the return of Thomas Edward Brady to the Bucs. He retired for a few months, realized he wasn't ready to go just yet, and decided, I am coming back. Given the fact that he announced retirement and then decided to unretire, I feel like it's very likely this will be the final season. And honestly, I really respect that decision. That, he decided, I'm done, I think I'm good. Really took his time to think about it and realized, no, I know I've got more in me. Maybe it is just one more season. Maybe he feels like he has a few more seasons left. But I like that if he feels he has unfinished business, 100% he should try to see it through. Now, I definitely feel bad for the guy who, how much did he spend? He bought the last touchdown that Tom Brady threw at an auction. I think he spent like $500K. It was something absurd, and now that ball is completely worthless. Now, as much as I hate to say this because he is going back to a division rival, I am glad he's coming back for at least one more season for two reasons. One, I have never seen Tom Brady play in person, and I would like to be able to do that. Hopefully, I could go to New Orleans for when they host the Buccaneers this year. Two, because his final play otherwise would have been a handoff. Now, it was a handoff that went for a touchdown, so technically his last play was a touchdown. But the idea of, this legendary, easy Hall of Fame, the GOAT and all that, his last play was just giving the ball to someone else. That doesn't seem right. Even if his last play doesn't go well, even if it's like an interception or a fumble, I want his last play to be Brady, doing something, like him really fighting for it. Or like a victory formation, which I think that was Ben's final play, or at least his final play at home, I think was a kneel down, which is very fitting. I would like Brady to have something like that, rather than just, I gave the ball to someone who scored a touchdown, but it just doesn't seem right to me. Staying in the NFC South, we have the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes, starring the other three teams in the division, my Saints, my cousins, Panthers, and I don't personally know any Falcons fans, but I'm sure they exist. And also starring the Cleveland Browns, who, put their hat in the mix like I thought they would, But ultimately, I was wrong. They did not get him. Now, he still has not made his decision, at least not at the time of this recording. But as apparently the Browns are officially out, and the Panthers are officially out. Now, I'll be honest. As a Saints fan, I am very mixed about this due to all the off-the-field allegations. Now, he is innocent until proven guilty. And since he was not actually charged, I want to give him the benefit of the doubt. But at the same time, 22 accusations is a lot. And there's that part of me that's like, you know what? Innocent until proven guilty, hasn't been charged. He's clear. He's good to go. Let's get him in. And then there's that other part of me that's like, but man, something about it just doesn't quite sit right. I don't know about this. And the longer it goes on, the more I just kind of want the Saints to say, you know what? We tried. We made our offer to the team. We made our pitch to you directly. If you don't want us and you want to go to Atlanta, you do you. Then we re-signed Jameis, who we did well with last year. You know, like when he was healthy, you know, we went 5-2. It's like we can re-sign Jameis, you know, keep a lot of our core players. You know, I think I've heard some people say that Ramczyk might be part of a trade, or that CD might be part of a trade. Two players I don't want to lose, even if we were to get, you know, a really good quarterback out of it. Like, I don't want to lose some of those core building blocks of our team. So keep them, sign Jameis, and then try and get, like, a receiver or two. Like, Landry is available. Woods apparently is available to be traded. It's something I've heard. Odell is currently unsigned. Now, granted, Woods and Odell are coming off of injuries, but I don't know if Jarvis was injured last year. I think he was, but unfortunately, I'm not as... No, he was injured. I do remember that because I had him on my fantasy team, and then he wasn't able to play on my fantasy team for a lot of the year. The longer this goes on, I want us to just try to keep our core and get a little better than to mortgage our future for someone who could be our future, but also makes me just a little uncomfortable. Not even a little. It makes me uncomfortable. I'd rather at this point he signed with Atlanta and we move on. Now, one team that I expected to try to go for Deshaun Watson but didn't was the Steelers. Instead, they followed in the footsteps of the Chicago Bears by not only bolstering their defense by adding Myles Jack, but also by signing Mitch Trubisky. Trubisky has had a really interesting career thus far. He was the number 2 overall pick, couple playoff appearances, a Pro Bowl nod, and the very first MVP in NFL history. And combine all of that with just this general sense of being underwhelming. There's a lot of talk about how it's like, you know, was it Trubisky was bad and, you know, Nagy did the best with what he had? Or, well, was it just Matt Nagy who was bad and Trubisky was in a bad situation? Because, I mean, look what happened with Justin Fields. They still didn't look that good. It's possible they just both aren't that great, but we'll definitely see. Like, I'm looking forward to seeing Trubisky get another shot. I hope he's able to make the most of it. But unfortunately for him, the Ravens aren't going to be making things easy. You know, they signed Marcus Williams, who's an absolute baller from New Orleans. I'm sad to see him go, but I hope he continues to show up and show out, and, you know, happy that the Ravens got someone good. Now, the Ravens might have been reunited with Zadarius Smith. At first I heard that, yes, he is going back, but then I heard that he's not signing. So I don't know if it's like negotiations completely fell through and he's not going back at all. Or if, okay, like, no, he still wants to go, but, you know, they have a couple things left to tweak in the contract. I'm not 100% sure there. You know, not really knowing what the situation is in Baltimore is pretty emblematic of the year they had last year. It was bizarre. They had several injuries, several missed 2-point conversions, and even then, they only barely missed the playoffs by, I think, maybe a game or two. I think if they can get healthy, they have a definite shot of getting back to the playoffs, but it's a real tough division. You got the strong defense in Pittsburgh and possibly a really good addition in Mitch. Again, we'll see. And you've got the reigning AFC champs in Cincinnati, who, from what I remember, pretty much throttled Baltimore both times they played last year. And then there's the Browns. Now, their defense, I believe, is still mostly intact, though they added a great receiver in Amari Cooper, but they also released Austin Hooper and also Jarvis Landry. I'm assuming with the release of Hooper that they're really hoping that David Njoku will take a real big step forward this year, will just absolutely ball out. So the Browns did try to get Watson, which does show a lack of faith in Baker Mayfield. Ultimately, they didn't get him, but because their pursuit of Watson was so public, Baker now wants out and wants to be traded. Honestly, I think both sides are in the right here. Baker has had a very up and down career thus far, and if you think a top tier guy is available, you gotta go get him. You're trying to go win a Super Bowl. That is the goal of every organization every year. I guess unless they're trying to tank because they realize we don't have a chance this year. But if you feel like you have a chance, you got to do everything you can to get it. Baker has missed the playoffs 3 of the 4 years that he's played there. So, of the sample size, maybe an upgrade is what you need. But if I'm Baker, I'm feeling kind of pissed off. They did go to the playoffs with him. It was for the first time in at least 300 years. And not only did they win a game, but they won on the road in their rival Steelers building and kind of kicked the shit out of them. Now, he might not be the reason for their success, but they've been a lot better with him than they have without him, as shown through, that giant jersey of here's all the quarterbacks the Browns have had since they've been back in the league. Baker is probably the best name on there, or at least he's probably done the most for the team of the names on there. And for them to just kind of kick him to the curb, I'd be mad too. So regardless, because I know he's requested a trade and the Browns have said, no, we're not going to trade you. Who knows if they will end up trading him or not, or if he stays. I'm going to be honest. I'm really excited to watch pissed off Baker Mayfield next year, whether it's in Cleveland or not. Because I feel like he's going to have one of two outcomes. Outcome number one, he balls out. He's like, they didn't want me. They wanted to move on from me. He's basically going to do what Aaron Rodgers did when the Packers traded up for Jordan Love. I'm going to play so well that they're going to look like idiots for trying to replace me. And he's just going to dominate. Maybe not an MVP level, because, I like Baker a lot, but I don't think he's, the caliber player of Aaron Rodgers. But he does incredibly well. And, whatever team he's on, goes to the playoffs, has a stellar year. Alternatively, in his desire to make the Browns look like idiots, he tries to do too much, tries playing a lot of hero ball, ends up throwing a lot of really bad interceptions that, normally he wouldn't try to throw. And ultimately his team does poorly, loses a lot of closer key games because of that, missed the playoffs. And now the Browns maybe look right in their assessment. Honestly, I kind of think it's going to be one or the other. It is going to be this blaze of glory or this ultimate flameout. Now, I am a Sooner fan, so I am rooting hard for Baker to be successful. But we'll see what happens during the year. Now, staying in the AFC, we move on to the Jaguars. What they have done this offseason is they are going all out to try to get weapons for Trevor Lawrence to support their young quarterback. Christian Kirk from, I almost said Atlanta, from Arizona. Zay Jones from the Raiders. Evan Ingram from the Giants. None of these names jump out at me for being these real elite guys, But I do like the fact that they are trying to get him some weapons to try to support, like I said, to try to support Lawrence. Like I said earlier, the Steelers signed Myles Jack because the Jaguars let him walk. It's really interesting to me that it's like, yeah, that was the last starter of that, legendary Saxonville defense. He's gone. None of them are on the team anymore. It is a completely new era in Duval. And I hope they're able to make my boy Jason Mendoza proud of him. That brings us to the AFC West. So the Chargers are shoring up their defense, not just with Khalil Mack, like I mentioned last week, but also the corner, J.C. Jackson. These are really good. Now, given the incredible offenses they're going up against, these are some incredibly good moves that they're doing. Denver must have agreed with that because then they went out and got Randy Gregory after he already agreed to return to Dallas, in addition to getting Russell Wilson. I've seen mixed responses from Dallas fans about Gregory leaving. Some of them seem sad to see him go. Others are glad given his, penchant for penalties. It's not the first time Denver got a star QB in the offseason and then also added a pass rusher from Dallas. Last time they did this, they got a Super Bowl. Not immediately, so it took them a few years. So it'll be interesting to see if how well this works, if it's similar to, getting Manning and Ware or not. But not to be outdone, the Raiders got a good pass rusher of their own when they got Chandler Jones, and they also added a receiver when they got Devontae Adams yesterday. That surprised the hell out of me. I did not see that coming. I was shocked that he got traded. I also didn't know that he and Carr played together in college, so I like that. It at least shows that, there's some rapport there. The two guys seem like they're friends. Maybe they're going to ball out too. Meanwhile, the Chiefs haven't really done anything, at least that I have seen, to either get better or worse. But they're also still the top dogs. They've been to 4 straight conference championships, 2 Super Bowls, and won one of them. So even though the other 3 teams around them are getting better, they don't seem like they're that worried. It's like, okay, well, you're coming at the king. Just make sure you don't miss. The AFC West isn't a scene. It is a full-on arms race at this point. It's wild to me that there is a non-zero chance all 4 teams could make the playoffs. A division winner, all 3 wild cards. Now, of course, that means no wild cards from any other division would get in. So, Bills and Patriots, at least one of them is out. Ravens, Bengals, Steelers, Browns, all of them would have to be out. The AFC South, okay, that one's actually kind of believable that only one team would get in. It's really crazy, but it could happen. I don't think it will, because with these teams having to play each other twice a year, I feel like they're going to cannibalize each other. And either one or 2 of them are going to miss the playoffs because of a crucial loss to the other. Kind of like at the end of the year, what was the last game of the regular season? An AFC West showdown. Winner will get in, loser will get out. Unless enough things fell in their way and they tied, which almost happened. I wanted the tie so bad. No disrespect to the Steelers, it would have knocked them out of the playoffs, but come on! I wanted the tie just for how bizarre that would have been. I remember the memes, if all of the things go, if the Steelers win, if the Colts lose, there might have been 1 or 2 other things, and then the Raiders and the Chargers just kneel down for 16 minutes and both get in the playoffs on prime time. Oh, I wanted it so bad, and I feel like we were so close to a tie, man. I'm still kind of upset about it. I'm not mad, but I wanted it to happen. Now, just a couple other teams I want to address before moving on to other stuff. First is the Bills. So, one of the first things I saw them do is they added J D McKissic from Washington, which I think is a sneaky good move. He's a solid runner. I know he scored quite a few touchdowns last year. I don't actually know the stats. I don't have them in front of me. But I remember watching highlights and it seemed like he was getting into the end zone pretty often. And it seemed like one of the consistent weaknesses of the Bills last year was not having like a really good running game outside of Josh Allen. So bolstering one of their only weaknesses, that's really good, and that's kind of scary. Now, they did release Cole Beasley, but between having Diggs and Gabriel, I think they can manage. I think they'll be just fine. Their defense was already really good last year, notwithstanding that playoff game against Kansas City. And then they went ahead and added Von Miller to it. Von Miller is a beast, always has been, and is one of my favorite players in the league. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if he ended up repeating as champion. Yes, hypothetical audience. I know we're not yet done with free agency. Deshaun Watson hasn't even found a home yet. And we haven't even gotten to the NFL draft. A lot can happen before the start of the season, and when the season happens, a whole lot can happen there. But I am willing to go on record and say that as of today, March 18th, wait, it's the 18th. Did earlier I say the 17th? Because I was typing this yesterday. No, I think I did say the 18th. Okay, but today, March 18th, 2022, 2:57 p.m. Central Time, the Buffalo Bills are my Super Bowl pick. And around this time last year is when I picked the Rams. Now, I'll be honest. As the season went on, I did not think the Rams were going to do it. 100% will own that. When the playoffs started, my NFC pick was the 49ers. My AFC pick, I was leaning toward the Bills. But even though I ended up changing my mind, which I did end up getting the pick right when I first made it. So I'm going to stick with it this time. Buffalo winning it all. Who they play in the NFC? I don't want to say the Bucks. It is going to be Brady's last season. And okay, if his last season is he goes to the Super Bowl and plays the Bills, a team that he's bullied his entire career, that's actually kind of fun. But I'm a Saints fan, so I don't want the Bucks going to a Super Bowl. Aaron Rodgers is back in Green Bay. I really don't think the Packers are going to do it. You know what? Let's say San Francisco. Screw it. Bills beating the 49ers, Super Bowl prediction. And I guess one last thing is I should go ahead and at least address the returning or the defending champs. Andrew Whitworth retired. Johnny Hecker got released. Odell has not re-signed, and it sounds like Robert Woods is up for potentially getting traded. But they also signed Allen Robinson. Really solid player. Happy for old Andrew. Man is, I think, 40, unless he turned 41 in like the couple months after the game. I don't know when his birthday is. He retired a champ. Respect to that. Hecker has been one of the best punters in the league for a long time. Like, not just good at the actual punting, but he's also really good at running trick plays. I've been a fan of his. Glad he was able to get a ring. Still hate the Rams, but I'm happy for a lot of their players. Now, we're done with football, but I do have other current event stuff to talk about. Like I said, hypothetical audience, gonna be here talking for a while. So we move on to another sport. College basketball. March Madness is in full swing. It is not football, but it is still a tournament arc. Now, I don't have much to say about it. My bracket is already busted. I think I did end up having Iowa winning a game or two, so that's out. I had South Dakota State winning a game or two, so that's out. I always put the Jackrabbits to go like a couple rounds in. I don't know why. I really don't, but anytime I see the South Dakota State Jackrabbits, I always root for that team. Never been to South Dakota. Have zero ties to them as a state or as a university. I think I just like their mascot. My final four, I had Duke, Baylor, Michigan, and LSU, with Duke winning it all. Now, to explain my final four. So this, I believe, is Coach K's last season. So I put Duke in, had them winning, so he goes out on top. Baylor is, I believe, the reigning champions. So to me, it only made sense for them to be there. Michigan, I watch a lot of the Rich Eisen show. So I know he's a Michigan a Michigan alum and loves his team. So I threw them in there, and LSU because, go Tigers. If the Sooners were in there, I probably would have had the Sooners winning the whole thing. But, it is what it is. Finally moving away from sports, the new chapter of Shumatsu no Valkyrie, or Record of Ragnarok, finally got translated. This... I feel like most chapters usually get translated within the week. This one took like 3 weeks, and it's almost time for the next chapter to come out as well. Overall, the chapter was fine. We got more backstory for the current fighter. That's always a good thing, or for the current human fighter. Like, I liked the backstory. I like this dude. We'll see how it goes. It's really interesting to me because, like, okay, we have a Chinese warrior versus a Greek god. Now, the other Chinese warrior is lost. So there's that part of me that's like, does the author really want to make, like, China go 0-2? Because I don't know how big, like, the Chinese fan base is, but do you really want to piss them off by doing that? But then you've also got the Greek pantheon, who has 1 win, very controversial, arguably should have lost, but 1 win, 2 losses, the current fighter and another one coming up. So it's like, if they win, it's like, okay, like, this is the Greek pantheon, they should be hauling ass. If they lose, they look kind of sad. It's like, why are you guys the top dogs? You all suck. You keep losing. So I feel like you're either going to piss off the fans of Greek mythology or you're going to piss off the Chinese. You're kind of in a lose-lose situation, so I'm interested to see what happens here. A new poster for the Sonic the Hedgehog movie came out the other day, which is a reference to the cover of the original game. Like, not the first Sonic game, but the Sonic the Hedgehog 2. I think that's really cool. Now, I like the fact that the people who made this seem like they care about either the games or the fan base and are doing little things like that to be like, hey, we know it's a video game movie. We know the stigma of video game movies, but we're trying. I watched the first one. I honestly liked it quite a bit. I'm not a huge Sonic fan, but I've always liked Sonic. So I was glad that the movie was enjoyable. I'm going to go see the new one. I'll definitely bring up how it is when I eventually go see it. I think that comes out in like 2-3 weeks or so. I really, really hope the people making the Mario movie have that same level of love and respect for it. I'm not going to lie. The fact that it's Illumination kind of scares me. I'm not crazy about Chris Pratt as Mario. Like, I like Chris Pratt. I don't have a real bias against him, but it's like, but that's not the guy who's been voicing him forever. That's weird. And so the Goombas are probably just gonna be minions, which, I mean, I guess I could kind of see working, but also maybe not. I don't think I'm cautiously optimistic for it. I'm just cautious. But I hope it's good. I really hope it's good. I was really hoping we were going to get a trailer on Mario Day that I could watch and I could talk about and be like, okay, movie looks great, I'm really excited, or, oh boy, this is going to be a shit show of the highest proportions. I really don't know. But I think it comes out in November, so I guess we'll see around then. And speaking of Nintendo, Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl got a new update, where if you have save data from Legends, you can get the Azure Flute, so you can catch Arceus. Yes, that is how I pronounce it. I think Arceus sounds better than Arceus. That's just like when I look at the word, that's how it's pronounced to me. I like it. I don't care that it's not the canon pronunciation. I like Rayquaza more than Rayquaza. That's just how it is. I'm sorry. When this was revealed, it's like, all right, you're going to be able to do the event. This is the first time the event is like officially doable in the US. was kind of thinking to myself, it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Is it shiny locked? Because if not, I kind of want a shiny hunt Arceus. I've never done that. Like, I've never shiny hunted a legendary. And if there's anyone to do it with, I might as well try and just shiny hunt God. And I was kind of thinking about it. I was like, maybe this is something I should do. And, maybe I could stream it. That might be kind of fun. So what I thought about was, maybe when I'm doing this recording, I can kind of talk about it, like I'm doing now. Be like, hey guys, let me know if that's something you're interested in. Like, are you interested in watching me stream, trying to get a shiny Arceus? Now, the stream itself would probably be pretty boring. I would just sit there, load the game, talk to the Pokemon, see if it's shiny or not. If it is, throw a Master Ball. If it's not, reload. There wouldn't be a lot going on in the game, but I thought maybe this could be kind of fun. Here's the problem, though. Yesterday, I already got the shiny Arceus. I remember I started at like 225. I was like, all right, I'm going to take an hour and a half, do some shiny hunting. If I get him, great. If not, I'll move on, do other shit with my day. So I'm sitting there playing Pokemon, and I've got my audiobook of the Count of Monte Cristo going on as well while I'm playing. So an hour goes by, nothing. Hour and a half goes by, still nothing. I'm like, all right, it's 4:00 something. Should I stop? I'm kind of getting to that point. I'm like, you know what? Let's give it a full 2 hours. When it hits 4:25, I'll stop. 100% dead ass. So I keep going, couple more resets, still nothing. And then 4:21, I remember looking at the clock and I was like, all right, this might be the last reset. Maybe I'll have time to do one more because, the game kind of takes a while to load up and such. I was like, I've got 1, maybe 2 or 3 left. Let's see it. And there it was. My shiny golden boy. Now, I'll be honest. You did not miss a grand reaction. I wasn't screaming. I wasn't doing some crazy dance. It was surprisingly subdued for me. I just remember gasping. I remember just seeing it go, and then just kind of sat there with my jaw on the floor for a second. And then immediately just turned up the music. I was like, all right. I gotta use the quick ball first. Save the Master Ball just in case. Okay, quick ball didn't do anything. Okay, he just used Hyper Beam and obliterated my Drapion. Throw someone out. I think I threw out Gastrodon. All right, go. Master Ball. Got him. Oh. And even that was a lot more overreacting than I did actually than what had happened. But I got it. Really excited that I got it. A couple other game-related updates. The Mario Kart 8 Deluxe DLC dropped today, at least the first wave of it. I'm not a big Mario Kart guy, but I know I have a lot of friends who are. Jose, one of my roommates, especially, really excited for this. So, I hope that my friends enjoy it. If Jose, wants me to, play a race or two with him, I probably will. But I'm not super into it, but happy for the people who are. So yesterday there was a state of play, specifically for the game Hogwarts Legacy. Now in the game, you play as a 5th-year transfer student with some, special magic powers or something oh, you have access to this ancient magic and blah, 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 blah. So you transfer to Hogwarts to learn more about the ancient magic, uncover conspiracies. I think they said something about a goblin uprising, which, okay, that sounds kind of cool, I'm not gonna lie. And you essentially get to simulate a year at Hogwarts. You go to classes, you're going to potions, herbology, charms, defense against the dark arts. I don't think they mentioned transfiguration by name, but I mean, it's a Hogwarts class, come on, you gotta have it. You get to ride a broom, you get to take care of magical creatures, visit Hogsmeade, etc., etc. Now, I talked last week about how I don't want to be very political on this channel, so I'm not going to talk about all the controversy surrounding J.K. Rowling. What I will say, I grew up reading the Harry Potter books and watching the movies. I have had a non-zero number of fantasies about going to Hogwarts and what that would be like, or how I could man, I wish I could make like the luck potion and how that would affect my life, stuff like that. So I think the game looks really neat. That being said, I'm not super excited for it. The J.K. Rowling stuff, like, all right, that's kind of a factor. The weird kind of facial animations is also a factor. Like, the game looks fun, but part of it looks kind of a little uncanny to me. There's also the fact that I know it said it's coming out holiday. So that probably means November. So between Forspoken in October and Pokemon in November, I'm kind of booked. If I have the time and the money, maybe I'll check it out. But I feel like it's something that I really want to know what people say about it first, since I'm already feeling kind of hesitant. It's certainly not a drop everything and play kind of game the way like a Pokemon game is, a mainline Persona or a Danganronpa game. But if I end up hearing a lot of really good things, like I said, I have the time and the, capital, sure, I'll go for it. Now, before I run out of time, I do want to go ahead and give my Survivor update for the week. So one of the players, I think his name is Hi, he talked about his struggle with being a vegan, but having to eat meat while on the island so he could keep up his energy, not be a liability to his tribe. That was something I found really, really interesting. Survivor has always been a show about balancing your personal beliefs or your morals against your desire to compete and win. Now here, the desire to not starve and be a liability ultimately won over being a vegan. And if that sounded really judgmental against the guy, I don't mean it that way. I mean, like, genuinely, that is one of my favorite elements of the show, is just seeing how people struggle with that and wrestle with that kind of stuff and what they ultimately choose to do. Survivor is at its best when it is a social experiment, when it is about real people with real emotions, real thoughts, and real struggles, and how they relate to the 15, 17, 19 other people on the island, and how they use their social structure to their advantage. I'm someone that likes to think I'm a very loyal person, that I'm someone that does not tell lies to people. I try to be loyal and honest. Rainbow Dash and Applejack. All of that goes out the window for me the second Jeff says go. Like, I would still be loyal to me. I would still tell the truth. Like, I wouldn't turn into Pinocchio for no reason. But I also know it's like, hey, I'm here to play a game. I'm here to compete. I'm here to win. I'm here to have fun. I'm gonna take some of my morals off for a bit. Is that a good thing? No. But it's a thing. So, like, yeah, I am in no place to judge someone for what they do on a show that I have, A, never been on, and 2, really want to be on, and would not have a lot of moral scruples. That's kind of really all I have to say. Like, that was the thing that really caught my eye. We do see, like, the immunity challenge was fun. It was really, like, close into the wire, which is something I always like to see. The cast is still enjoyable. Another Shot in the Dark was played, which is already double the amount of last season, because last season it was only 1, now it's 2. I love this twist. I love the idea how you give up your vote for a 1 in 6, I think it's a 1 in 6, like a 1 in 6 chance of being safe. Essentially it is, I am backed into a corner. I don't think I have the social capital to get through this vote. So I am going to risk it all on a literal shot in the dark bullshit chance. And if it works, I stay alive. And if not, I was probably going home anyway. I like that because there is that sense like you're backed into a corner, but it's not a guarantee that you get to stay. Like you want your social bonds because that's what keeps you from being backed into the corner. But also, if you're playing the game right, people won't play their shot in the dark because you'll be able to make them feel comfortable. You'll be able to make them feel safe. You don't want to see that thing get played. It's a 1 in 6 chance of them being safe. So I mean, it's like, all right, so there's a 5 or 6 chance we still get what we want. But on that off chance that the target is safe, I don't want to get screwed on the revote, or if votes got split, I don't want anything going my way and I get screwed. So I want that person to trust me, to believe me, for them to have no doubt in their soul that they are safe, so that thing doesn't get played. So I feel like last season, the fact that we only saw it get played once, I feel like is evidence of either really bad strategy, because people were like, they were screwed and didn't know it and didn't take their one out, or evidence of really good social game and people just always making other people feel that they were safe. And honestly, I feel like it's more of the latter than the former. I think the social game last season, for the most part, was really solid. Whew! So, that's all my current events and updates for the week. I don't know how long these will be going forward. Like, free agency, I don't have a lot to say about the draft, because I don't watch a lot of college football. I don't really know who's big and whatnot. So, I feel like early free agency is big. And then when the season actually starts, and I'll have, things to say about, like, the different storylines and the standings, that might go on for a bit, too. But again, this is episode 2. Let me know if that's something you enjoy. If you feel like, no, I don't care about your thoughts on the Bills winning the Super Bowl or all these different things in free agency, let me know. Let me know if it's something you think I should cut entirely, if it's something you think I should really trim down, or if you're like, no, I think this is fine. I like kind of knowing all this different stuff going on in football. Keep it up. Again, this is early. If there's any good time for me to figure out what works and what doesn't work, it's now. So please let me know. So now, we move on to the second and final opinion piece for the week. I will be sharing my thoughts on the second season of Amphibia. Now, season 3 has been on hiatus for a while. I am caught up, and I am stoked for it to come back. I think, the next episode comes out tomorrow. So I know I'm going to be talking about it and, giving weekly updates on, whatever the last episode was. I'm kind of considering now, maybe I should do, my recording on, Saturday or Sunday. So when I've had time to watch Amphibia and, talk about the new episode. We'll see. Again, let me know. So we're going to end today, the opinion piece with Amphibia Season 2. And next week, our first opinion piece will be for Season 3. Maybe the other one will be Lane. Maybe it'll be something else. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But for sure, Frog Season 2 now, Season 3 later. And without further ado, Frogs. Hello, hypothetical audience. I'm JJNW'S Ghost, and welcome to some hazy cosmic jive. And for today's jive, we're going to be talking about the second season of Amphibia. Now, I finished season 2 with my roommates over the weekend, and I need to talk about this show. I spent the last video talking about 4 categories that I think the first season excelled at. The writing, the characters, its penchant for dark turns, and the little bits of story that we got that I did think were interesting. I want to touch on those categories real quick about how season 2 handles them, but I also want to dive into the main theme of season 2 and how all of that came together for the season finale. The writing is more or less the same quality that we got in season 1. The humor is strong, the continuity is strong, and that becomes more apparent here given the larger focus on a story. I noticed in the first few episodes there were quite a few songs being used. It honestly reminded me a lot of older episodes of Scooby-Doo, where there would be just a pop song playing in the middle of a chase scene. And it was something I enjoyed. I kind of wish they had done a little more of it this season, to be honest, but it was still fine when it was there. I also noticed a new style of joke that they were doing here, where a character would say something maybe kind of a little dark, and the camera would zoom in on their face. Like during the like noir style episode, Anne and the kids are waiting in line to go into an arcade, and there's some kids that cut in front of them. And Anne is trying to get them to go to the back of the line. They're like, no, we're not going to do anything. Why would we? And so Anne's response is, hey, I'm a monster from another world. I might eat kids like you. You want to find out? And there's another episode where they do a similar joke with Polly, where she talks about how she's been eaten several times by different creatures. I'm starting to look forward to it. I know that joke was done in season 1. I'm pretty sure when Sprig asks if Hot Pop has ever killed someone, it does the same thing. But I noted it a lot more often in season 2. Now, going over the characters, I can pretty much copy and paste everything I said about Anne and the Planters from the season 1 video right here. When it comes to the returning side characters, they're still a lot of fun, and in some cases they're improved from how they were in season 1. The best example of that is Grime. So Captain Grime went from being, kind of intimidating and a little funny in season 1 to being one of the most consistently hilarious characters in the show. From his addiction to Suspicion Island, to the dessert he bakes for the dinner, to playing the harp in the Battle of the Bands. Dude, he had me rolling almost every time he was on screen. Now, some of the other kind of one-shot new characters they did, I liked as well. General Yunin, she showed up in a couple episodes where she was fine, didn't do much, but her debut, she was really funny. And I liked Frobo. I don't have a whole lot to say about him, but I enjoyed him being there. But the crown jewel of new characters in season 2 is Marcy, Anne and Sasha's other friend from back home. It took Marcy about 2 minutes to become one of my favorite characters in the show. She's a nerd, she likes video games, D&D, clumsy to the point of suffering spontaneous combustion. She's a lot of fun, and her friendship with Anne was genuinely sweet to watch. She's what I think Wade Watts from Ready Player One was supposed to be. A character who gets taken to a new world, is able to use their knowledge of fantasy to their advantage, to the point where they not only survive in the new environment, but they thrive in it. Now, obviously, it's not a one-to-one scenario. Wade can log in and out of the Oasis more or less when he wants, whereas Marcy is someone who is, legitimately trapped. But I do get the feeling that she is supposed to be that kind of escapist character. But where she excels is she does have a likable personality and genuine flaws that are problematic if they're unchecked, but they're also endearing. And that all kind of combines to make someone who is, I don't know if I want to go and say realistic, but she feels a lot more fleshed out. And so I feel like she is that kind of escapist character. They ultimately do a good job of it. The last major character introduced in the season is King Andrius, though I don't really feel like I should say much about him right now. I'll wait until we get to the season finale. The only thing I'll really say is he's voiced by Keith David, who is one of my favorite voices of all time. Quick side note, I am a huge, huge fan of the first series of Warriors, like the Cat books. And I know there's supposed to be a film adaptation in the works. I hope and pray to StarClan that he is the voice of Tiger Claw. I think he would nail that. Oh gosh, it would be perfect. So the show's penchant for dark turns has also been upped. There's the things that happen in the season finale, but aside from that, there's also an episode where Hot Pop causes someone to die. So we do get our answer to Sprig's question from season 1. Have you killed a man, Hot Pop? The answer is yes. Yes, he has. And in that perfect amphibia touch, it's played as a joke instead of something serious. And it's fantastic. Now, season 1 was light on the story in favor of establishing the characters and the world. But now that we have those things well established, the story is able to blossom. There's a lot of time spent traveling to Newtopia. And during that time, we still get, some of the one-off comedic episodes, but it still feels like genuine progress is being made. Well, a few episodes are spent within the city, getting to know Marcy and the King, and kind of figuring out what to do next. Marcy and the King figure out that they have to recharge the stones to the music box. We get 3 different episodes of charging each of the individual stones. Meanwhile, Sasha and Grime are planning a Toad rebellion. We get the episode where they get the idea to start the rebellion, an episode of them getting other Toads together, and a few episodes of them spending time with the Planters and Marcy so they can get those characters to lower their guard to let them in the city for an attack. Another thing I want to touch on is the main theme of Season 2, trust. Hot Pop hid the music box from Anne because he read that it was dangerous, and so he wanted to protect his family. He then lied and said that he had given it to some contacts who could study the box and give them some answers on how to get Anne back home. Anne is furious with him when she finds out that she's been lied to, and rightfully so. Hot Pop apologizes to her, and Anne forgives him, but it's clear she's still not okay with what he did. The following episode, The First Temple, is a 2-parter, and is about the fractured relationship, and Anne still needing time before she can forgive him completely. I love the show acknowledging that Anne still needed time to be able to actually forgive him, and that just saying, I'm sorry, and giving your reasons, as genuine as they are, can't fix everything. Now, unfortunately, her fractured relationship with Hot Pop doesn't last beyond The First Temple. I was kind of hoping it would be something that would be continued throughout the season. But instead of continuing on with the fractured relationship with Hot Pop, it moves on to the issues she has with Sasha. This is someone that Anne genuinely loves, but also knows that they didn't leave on the best of terms. Sasha's MO is lying and manipulating. And when Sasha says that she's changed, Anne wants to be able to believe her. But she is having trouble actually believing it. Though by the end of the episode, that's the third temple, she does decide that, you know what, if Sasha says that she's changed, I'm going to believe her. I am going to give my friends essentially a second chance. Now, this leads to her being devastated when Sasha does turn out to be manipulating her, especially given Sasha's cavalier attitude about being a liar. Anne was willing to forgive Hot Pop after some time, and I think a big part of that is because, he felt genuine remorse for betraying her trust and showed a desire to want to fix that. When Sasha showed none of that remorse, it was clear to Anne that this person has no desire to try and fix our friendship and become a better person. So then I have no desire to continue this friendship either. But the trust issues don't end there. Oh, no. To continue with that thread, now we move on to the season finale, to True Colors. This episode starts with a content advisory warning. This show, which has been so nonchalant about the mortality of its characters, where you see animals constantly getting eaten, squashed, or sometimes both, and even had someone dying as a joke, had a content advisory warning to start the festivities. And oh boy, did it deliver. We get a flashback of Marcy learning that she and her parents are going to be moving soon. Afraid of losing her friend, she vents her frustration the way that any nerd would do by visiting her local library. There she ends up learning about the Calamity Box and that it can be used to, teleport to other worlds. Then while she's, kind of going for a walk and moping, for lack of a better word, she ends up finding the box in a local thrift store. Then she texts Anne and Sasha about how she found this great present for Anne's birthday, knowing full well what the box might be able to do. And I love this. Not only does it show that Marcy is capable of the same lying and manipulation as her friends, but it solidifies the fact that she is an escapist character, someone who willingly isekai'd herself and her friends to get the adventure of a lifetime. Not just because, the thrill seemed really cool, but specifically to escape the world that she was living in. But back to said adventure. The first chunk of the episode is dealing with the Toad Rebellion. Sasha and Grime capture the king, disable the guards, and have their army on their way into the city. Then they end up learning from seeing some of the decorations of the castle that King Andreas may have been lying to everyone. Once he's freed and gets a hold of the box, he then reveals his deceit. His people are conquerors who use the box to travel to other worlds and conquer them. The more he talked about this, the more I realized he would fit right into Kingdom Hearts. He then reveals what we learned at the start of the episode. Marcy was aware of the box's powers and told her friends about the box, hoping and expecting it to take them to other worlds. And also that she has been helping King Andreas fix the box so that the two of them can continue traveling to all kinds of other dimensions. For me, this is the moment where the episode goes from good to great. It's hinted in a previous episode that there may be something nefarious with Andreas, and like I said, we get that flashback at the start about how Marcy knew more than she was letting on. But what sells this scene is everyone's reaction. Andreas is like Scar on Pride Rock, enjoying seeing the truth come out. Like, just the way he's telling Marcy and all the other characters, like, oh, did you not know? Did you ever think that maybe one of you more than she was letting on? And then Marcy, like, begging him to stop talking, but he just keeps going and going. All I can think of is, oh, Simba, you're in trouble again. This time, Daddy isn't here to save you, and now everyone knows why! Like, oh gosh, like, I love that scene. So, for both of those scenes, from Lion King and from Amphibia. But in addition to that, we also get Marcy telling Anne that all of the good times she's had with the Planters are because of Marcy, and that essentially Anne owes Marcy a debt of gratitude for giving her all of these good times. And the disgust that we see on both Anne and Sasha's faces when Marcy is essentially trying to guilt trip Anne into being okay with this. And we finally see that, sweet, clumsy, adorable Marmar is just as toxic and manipulative as the rest of them. Is priceless. Then the protagonists engage in a fight to get the box back from Andreas. Not only to try to get Anne and, Sasha back to their world, but also just to prevent him from going to other places and conquering them. This scene ends when Andreas gets a hold of Sprig. Like, he literally has his hand around Sprig's throat. And to prove that he isn't messing around, even after they surrender, they give him the box back, he throws Sprig out the window. At this point, the castle is flying. So, as far as he believes, he literally just murdered a child. And as far as everyone else thinks the exact same thing. And Anne goes crazy. So a few episodes ago was the second temple. One of the gems didn't fully charge. Now, each gem, once it had been charging, it seemed to correspond to one of the different girls. The first temple was Marcy, the second one was Anne, the third temple was Sasha. And after seeing Sprig go out the window, the second gem and Anne have this weird connection, I guess, and it causes her to go Super Saiyan Blue. I honestly find this to be the weakest part of the episode. Like I said, we did see Anne's connection with the gem, but there was no indication that she could do anything like this. So while I will give it a pass, it does kind of feel like it came out of nowhere. But that being said, the animation in this scene is fantastic, and I legitimately got chills when Anne was talking. If I remember right, all she was saying was, like, bring him back. bring him back. And, as she's, beating the crap out of Andreas, destroying all of his robots. And I don't remember the name of her voice actor off the top of my head, but she does such a good job in that scene. Like, you feel the anger and despair in her voice as she's going through this. So while Anne is going Super Saiyan, Marcy ends up jumping out the window and summons her bird, Joe Sparrow, to save Sprig. She gets back up. Anne ends up going out of her Super Saiyan mode, and she's a bit dazed. A portal ends up getting opened back to the world, and the planters grab Anne and are trying to run out. Sasha and Grime are like, hey, we'll hold him back. You guys go. Don't worry about us. And Andrews is like, no, I can't let you go. And so he starts chasing him. And during the commotion, this happens. Yeah, the content warning was not for show. Now, Marcy isn't dead. The episode does end with the season 3 intro, which does show her in some kind of like rejuvenation chamber. But she still got impaled and was very nearly killed. Now, I have gone ahead and gotten caught up on the episodes of season 3. Currently, there's 9 total episodes. And somehow her getting stabbed is not the most disturbing thing to happen to her. It gets worse. It gets really worse. But somehow that episode didn't have the content advisory warning, but oh boy. But after that scene, Anne and the planters wake up back home. Or, Anne's home. They wake up in Los Angeles. And, they land on a car. They're all kind of looking around. And one of the I think it's Hop Pop. It's like, where are we? Home. What I love about that is nothing in her tone, at least to me, it did not sound like she was relieved to be home. It did not sound like she was happy to be home. If anything, it sounded like, okay, I'm here. But now I need to go back because I have some unfinished business. And that is how season 2 ends. In my opinion, this is a perfect season finale. It takes everything that we've been introduced to in this season, from characters, locations, plot threads, and the themes. And not only does it give us a satisfying conclusion to all of those elements, but also a satisfying cliffhanger. It shows me something that I can be genuinely excited for, where I want to know what's going to happen next, but without me feeling like I just got cheated out of a satisfying conclusion. Again, I do think the Super Saiyan Blue thing was a bit out of nowhere, but I mean, it was cool. And there's just enough foreshadowing for it where it doesn't ruin anything for me. This is my favorite episode of the season by far, and probably my favorite of the whole show. It takes everything I love about Amphibia and just turns it up to 11. Now, since I ended the season 1 video with a top 10 list, I think it's only right that I do the same thing here. And since True Colors is clearly the top spot, this is going to be my 10 other favorite episodes. So the top 10 that aren't True Colors. So number 10, The Planters Check-In. This was the episode that first got me interested in Amphibia. Seeing the few scenes with the bellhop character, I related to that very personally. And just seeing that represented in a Disney Channel show, I was like, okay, I'm interested in seeing more of this show. I don't think this is a major character. Would be great if she was, but I've gotten my eye on this now. Number 9, The Shut-In. This is the Halloween episode, which instead of being like one plot, it's essentially it's a collection of short stories, kind of like a Treehouse of Terror thing from The Simpsons. So in the first one, we get human versions of Sprig, Polly, and Maddie, which is just something I enjoyed seeing. But then it also has a human version of Toady. And it's like, wait, so those first three are all kids. Is Toady a kid? I always thought he was an adult. Like, he was just short. I didn't actually know he was a child. Is he the mayor's kid? Is he just a kid that really looks up to the mayor? It honestly gave me more questions than I was expecting. The second story is the one about Sprig and Ivy. And what was it? It was like a skin collector. It was creepy, man. It was honestly kind of disturbing to watch, which is great. It's one of the things I love about this show. And the third one had Hop Pop, first off, with just a luscious head of hair. And second, he was chauffeuring Amphibia's version of Death. And that, honestly, was just a lot of fun. Number 8 is Maddie and Marcy. It's just two of my favorite characters in the show getting to hang out and nerd out over magic. It was just a lot of fun. I don't have anything else to say about it. Number 7, Anne Hunter. This is the episode with Anne's nature dance and also with the disembodied head of Sprig giving her advice on how to hunt. This was just a really, really funny episode. Number 6 is Battle of the Bands. So this is an episode where we get to see more of Anne and Sasha's strained relationship, which, like I said earlier, is something I really liked. It's a major theme of the season. The songs we get in the episode are honestly all really catchy. I found myself really vibing with them. And the ending scene with Grime and the harp was hilarious. Number 5, Hopping Mall. This was just a really heartwarming episode through and through. The main plot is Anne wants to get something nice for her mom, and she finds this really nice teapot with a butterfly motif, but it's actually the prize in a contest. So she enters the contest, she ends up winning, but then she finds out that the main competitor... she finds out that her main competition in that episode, her mom, was the one that made that teapot. And that was why that person, wanted it and was super hardcore about trying to get it. And when Anne realized that, she's like, I can't accept this. Here you go. And then that person's daughter ends up giving Anne something back in return, and that's something she wants to later give to her mom. It's really sweet. Then at the end, you have Anne and Sprig having a conversation about their moms. Anne talks about, she's like, I love my mom so much. She and I have our problems, but it's nothing like super deep. We just, don't always see eye to eye, but I love her and I miss her. And then Sprig's like, I don't really know my mom. She died when I was super young. So it's not something I think I relate to, but can I miss someone that I don't even really know? And I'm like, trying not to cry. It was so sweet. It also is one of my favorite visual gags and references in the whole show, where during the big competition, Anne and Sprig perfect shield and then get a Smash Bros. Style kill. It was a scene where me and my roommates were freaking howling at the moon watching it, and then we rewound the scene just to watch it again. Phenomenal episode. Number 4, Wax Museum. This is the Gravity Falls episode. Gravity Falls is also one of my favorite shows. Stan Pines is my favorite character from Gravity Falls. So an episode where they just made him an antagonist in Amphibia, it's gonna be money, and it was. I loved it. Also, we get a cameo from Fox It was also just an underrated gem from Gravity Falls. Number 3, Little Frogtown. So just the whole noir style to the episode was great. Hop Pop's narration throughout the episode was also really funny. And it's also the episode where Hop Pop killed a man. And, an episode that actually takes a dark turn like that, I have to give it some love. Number 2, The Dinner. This episode is uncomfortable in the best possible way. Sasha, Grime, and Marcy all come over for like a big family dinner with Anne and the Planters. Now, the Planters and Marcy are completely cool, no issues, but they don't trust Sasha and Grime. And the audience knows that Sasha and Grime are up to no good. So anytime the Planters are mistrusting them or, just kind of giving them shade, it's 100% justified. But even then, it's like Sasha's still trying her best to make it seem like she's on the level. But, it's just really entertaining. Emotions are running high the whole time, and the ending managed to be this combination of badass, emotionally compelling, and hilarious at the same time. So, kind of Amphibia at its best. But number one for me, again, aside from True Colors, is The First Temple. This is that two-parter episode that shows the fractured relationship between Anne and Hot Pop, and I loved that. I honestly wish we got maybe just a little bit more of that in the last few episodes of the season. We also get Marcy just having way too much fun solving puzzles. We get a game of wizard's chess in which the other side is actively cheating, which is really funny to me. This is just a really great episode. I loved it. I don't really have much else to say. So overall, those are my thoughts on the second season of Amphibia. I loved the whole season. The season finale was perfect. And I'm caught up on season 3, which on the one hand makes me really happy because I've seen all the episodes and spoiler alert, they're great. But it also means that I now have to wait for new episodes, and I'm pretty sure the show is on hiatus, so I don't know when to expect them. I don't know if I'm going to do Dissecting Amphibia Season 3 at this point, since the season's not over. I kind of want to do one to talk about it, but we'll see. I might just include it in like a mashup or something. But that's all I have for this video. Let me know if you've seen Amphibia, if you've seen both seasons. Is there a season you prefer? Are there some episodes that you really liked from season 2? Etc., etc. Let me know. I am more than happy to talk about this show. And we're back, hypothetical audience. So the reason I'm laughing is, I just finished recording my audio for, my current events, free agency, March Madness, video games, etc. And I took a break, to go check my phone because I didn't have it on me. It was charging. And I literally just saw Deshaun Watson has agreed to go to the Browns. So after being told that, no, he's not going here, this is not what he wants to do, it is exactly what he wanted to do, which means I was right when I said I think he's going to end up going to Cleveland. Oh my goodness. I am actually so excited and so psyched that I freaking called that a week ago. Let's go me. So yeah, like I said, Saints, go ahead, sign Jameis, get him back, keep our players, keep our draft capital. We were a game away from the playoffs last year. Our defense balled out. Let's go get it done. No idea where Baker's going to go. I don't know if he's part of the deal, so maybe Baker is going to go to Houston. Matt Ryan, I'm still going to say, ends up finding his way to the Colts, where, honestly, I hope he balls out. But, sorry, I just got that information as I'm about to record, my conclusion and my ending. Had to go ahead and share that right away. But that does go ahead and bring us to the end of today's Jive. But if you will indulge some Chinese words of wisdom, my fortune cookie for the week: release your energy in a productive way. Now, this one doesn't really make for a catchy episode title, hence it not being the title for this week, but it makes a lot more sense to me than clever crows painting themselves black. One of my favorite quotes ever is from the dub of Studio Dean's adaptation of Fate Stay Night. Now, it might be something in the sub as well. I don't know, but I know it's in the dub, where Rin tells Shiro, if you have time to worry, then you have time to do something about it. Now, that's something I try to keep in mind. If I have a lot of neurotic energy, but aren't doing anything with it. Like, if I'm worried about a situation, I kind of try to think, okay, let's spend that energy doing something good. Like, what can you do about it? And if there is something you can do about it, let's get it done. I love trying to be productive. You know, one of my favorite things in the world is having a list. And one, like, if there's one thing that'll always kind of get, like, my fucking dopamine wheel blasting, it is being able to cross something off a list. It feels great because I can look at this and say, I got stuff done. I was productive. You know, whether it's something creative, whether it's something just like, hey, I needed to go mail my passport and get that stuff done. Off the list. Got it done. I wanted to go make a video. Did the recording or did the editing. Got it done. Always feels good to be productive. Now, I do have my lazy days, and I will admit, I've had quite a few lazy days this week, and it's kind of bothered me. I'm really hoping that next week I can get that fixed. Especially with, like I was saying earlier, a lot of that, like, mental trying to figure out how the story is going stuff. This week I really want to put, I don't want to say pen to paper because I'm going to be typing, but I want to, I guess, finger to keyboard. Like, really not just, okay, how does stuff work in my head? Type it all out. This is how everything works. I want to get this figured out because that is really productive for me and that's really exciting for me. Like, I love writing. I love making stories and telling stories and shit. Sorry, I'm feeling really good. A, knowing I was right about Watson to Cleveland, but two, talking about the thing I love, writing and making stories, always puts a smile on my face. But unfortunately, as good as my move is, did I say mood or move? I heard a D and a V at the same time. It was weird. But as good as my mood is, I do have to go ahead and end the episode. Now, it's pretty late in the day. I mean, it's only 3 o'clock, but I don't know if I am going to be doing a lot of the audio editing for this episode today. I might just do it tomorrow and release it tomorrow, which I know kind of goes against what I was just saying about let's be productive. So it's like, I'm going to be productive and then not do this. But I mean, like, maybe tonight we'll just kind of see how I'm doing. But I've been sitting here for like an hour a while. I'm feeling a little exhausted. I at least kind of want to do something else. So, since no one suggested that I don't sing the goodbye song, here we are again. Hey, this was really fun. We hope you liked it too. Seems like it's just begun when suddenly we're through. Goodbye, goodbye, good friends, goodbye. But now it's time to go. But hey, I say, well, that's okay, 'cause we'll see you very soon, I know. Very soon, I know. Goodbye, goodbye, good friends, goodbye. And tomorrow, just like today, the moon, the bear, and the big blue house will be waiting for you to come and play. To come and play. To come and play. Bye now.